Hello everyone, I'm Angela Hart. I'm from Heart of the Earth, where we bring you sustainable news and views about God's creation, our community, and everyone's environment. Because in the beginning, sustainability was God's idea. Hi, welcome to Heart of the Earth. We're so glad you're here with us today. I've invited a friend of mine named Schimmel Berns to come back with us. She was here once before. I invited her back because she has spoken about the way God works through her to inspire her when she does her art. And what's really fascinating is that Ellen hears music and sees the color and the tones in her artwork in a musical way, but she's not a musician. I beg to differ with her. I say she is. However, she does not play a musical instrument. So we want her to share some of this with you. And welcome, Ellen. It's good to have you back.
Oh, Angela, thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
We were so excited after we had shot the last show because you were explaining in depth the way God speaks to you as you're creating your art and how God is the creator of all things and inspires you to be the creator that you are. Today we have a piece that you're going to describe to us about that's a little bit solemn. Tell us when you made it, what inspired you at the time, and what happened subsequently, because it's a story in itself. Please.
Okay. Thank you, Angela, and again, thank you for having me. This piece, I guess this was in the mid-90s. I submitted this for a war memorial monument. And as I was doing it, it almost was I was just fitting the pieces together. I understood the pathos and the passion and the heart of the matter that I was trying to express. And the formula of this was very special. You know, I submitted it. I didn't hear a word, which was fine, but this had to mean something. So fast forward 4 or 5 more years, when 9/11 happened, I remember that first morning, and Mayor Giuliani, came on the television and said there were probably 6,000 people that were in the buildings, and you know, all of us were, everyone, the world stopped, you know, in this unabandoned horror. And I remember this piece, and over the next few days I took it out and I realized there are 6 figures building from the depths of dying and pieces, and the formula of, you know, I don't know the process, but this was my process of going through the steps of entering heaven. And it was that no matter what our foundation is, no matter how many layers of concrete of our lives, you know, things happen that are unimaginable. And so that was the foundation of this piece, you know, drawing layers upon layers of blocks of concrete showing that they crack.
Oh, I see the crack here.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And there was this shape here.
This was the starting of the people, you know, the persons, you know, the veterans, the veterans of humanity dying for a cause and going through the horror of death. And this image was almost like an angel. It just sort of appeared, and they're all interconnect. And he is supporting the image when it's getting closer to be resurrected into heaven, and you know, holding that person up, which really to me, I guess, was Jesus, you know, the form of Jesus. And then the individual, God, I believe, gives them the staff of life, you know, saying that you have now everlasting life. And this angel, I've used her in one other, and it was basically, I was so inspired. I love Botticelli and the Birth of Venus, and if you look, you'll see something close to that. So I took it and made it mine on this piece, and she is wrapped in the American flag. The
I
stars,
see stars.
are
Here are some stars.
exactly are scattered, and the spirit of America. And she's holding a rose. And I thought, no matter, the Lord is, the rose. He rose for us, and He's arisen. So she's handing each person that's entering into the gates of heaven a rose.
Wow.
So after 9/11 happened, I put this away, and I realized that, it was too hard for me to see, to have gone through the process of painting, and I didn't look at it for many years, and now I am. But
what's interesting is that you drew this, and what did you use what did you use?
This was on mylar, a mylar that you draft on. That I didn't bring the original and pencil. It's just mylar background. It's like a frosted plastic.
That's the paper, you mean?
The paper.
But what did you use to draw it with?
A pencil.
Pencil.
It's
That's
just
fascinating.
pencil.
What's really interesting is that Ellen created this piece before 9/11 as a war. Well, it was for which memorial?
A memorial to the veterans.
The Veterans
of War,
Memorial,
of dying
and yet
in the line of fire.
Yes, and it's beautiful and it can represent that. And yet it was almost prophetic, because years later, about 4 or 5 years later,
Yes.
when 9/11 happened, and she looked at it and she could see the symbolism and the graphic detail that is so indicative of 9/11, or so reflective, I should say. That's fascinating, and I know it's hard for you to look at, but I'm glad you brought it in.
Oh, thank you, Angela. Okay. Excuse me. Here, I think I'll just lay this on the floor. These pieces are from, again, I have illustrated, not published, 2 children's books. And this is one. And it's just sort of a snapshot. This is like a sentence of a piece of art that I do. And this young girl is sleeping, and in her mind, she's dreaming of the scales of stars on like a graph for music. And so, her dreams are in color, technicolor, and dreaming music and stars and all the things that young girls probably dream.
Yeah, no, not all young girls dream about stars and music and things like this. But you, as an artist who hears music and paints music, you do see these things. And I'm just so fascinated by this.
Oh,
Beautiful, beautiful.
Oh,
Let's take another one.
okay, thank you. Here. Maybe if it's all right, I'll move
whatever's
that there.
easier for you.
This little piece was the beginning of the second children's book. It's about a little girl who goes to the seashore on one day and is given a goal to build a sandcastle. And the story basically is a learning experience for a child to begin a project and end a project. So this is, the little girl's name is Sam, and she's walking through the reeds, and she has her doll Dot. And
She has her what?
her doll, and her doll is named Dot.
A doll named Dot. I love it.
And again, on here, like in some of my other pieces, I had just such fun with the play of greens, the tones and the shades and the sound that, the rustling of the wind going through that. I tried to capture, a little of that movement.
Because you heard the wind. Of course, she hears the wind rustling. And I mean this with all due respect. I really sincerely mean it. The way you hear and it comes out on your art is just amazing to me. So you're hearing this wind rustling through the greens, and there you are painting it, and it has captured the movement. That's fantastic, Ellen.
Oh, Angela.
Fantastic.
So
and I
many
love the way you
artists.
bring in the pinks and the mauves with the greens. I mean, those are my favorite colors. Shall we go to the next? May I take it for you? I'll take it for you.
Thank you. Okay. Now, this is from a different book. This is a little ballerina, a little girl who wants to be a ballerina. And this segment was that she was getting ready for bed, and she has her hope chest and with her ballerina shoes hanging and opening up with her book and blanket. And, it's just sort of a portion of the book, a little simple statement of a trunk and color and fun for them to enjoy.
I love the ornate blocks and triangles. There are a lot of angles in your art, I notice. I like that, and yet it's feminine. It's interesting to me. Did you do ballet as a child? Were you a ballerina?
A little. I was so shy. But I always wanted to be a ballerina, I think, in my...
I think so. I think so. I'd love to see these books published because they seem to bring a story for the children that inspires them to do well and excel in certain things.
Exactly.
They're not just fantasy. They're about. Tell me more about them.
Yes, you know, Angela, that's so true. When I did this was many years ago. Well, that's 7, 8 years ago. The conclusion of the book had a little a notepad, and it would say, my goal this week, my goal that week. So, you know, I wanted them not only to enjoy the fun of looking at the color, but to know that, gosh, they want to be a doctor. Well, okay, they'll put down their goals.
And how to reach them. And that's wonderful.
But,
it's a learning experience for the kids as well as traveling through the story.
Exactly.
Can we look at that one, or is that?
Oh my gosh, I forgot those are on there.
Oh, is that just some test drawings that you did beforehand? Did you want
yes.
to talk about them or go on to the next, whatever you prefer?
Well, that's up to you.
Well, what am I looking at? This fascinating
gosh.
Egyptian here, or somebody. What am I looking at? That's wonderful.
Yeah, well, this it's a larger piece, but it was all music. And I've forgotten about this.
Am I looking at a harp? It looks like
it's a harp, 2 harps back to back. But her hair style is literally the floor plan of the symphony, where the string instruments are. So I took that and I made that her hat, her hair actually.
Her hair is a symphony. God bless you.
Yes.
Beautiful. You're inspiring me to want to play an instrument.
Oh
I love to work with color already, but now you're getting me in the mood to work with to learn an instrument.
Color
so her hair
that's the floor plan of the actual. If you go to Carnegie Hall, that's where all the people sit. You know, that's the layout.
Wait, you mean this is the layout of Carnegie? Oh, the circle.
Oh, no.
The circle.
Yes, this
right. That's
piece,
right.
Exactly, is just exactly the layout of where the positioning of all the instruments, the flutes,
Did you know that you were doing that when you created her hair?
Yes.
That's wonderful.
I definitely. And she's holding tubas, and she's on a piano, and
Look at this. And look, what are these instruments? Or are they just fantasy?
Those are that's Chinese. It's called a moon lute, and it's like a little banjo, but it has that beautiful Oriental sound. There are 2 of them.
I don't know if I've heard them before. They must be really interesting to hear.
They're beautiful.
Really?
And pipa.
Pipa what?
Pipa is a Chinese instrument. It's one of their main instruments. The sound is so beautiful, and they often play that with that. And
where have you heard them play these before? Do you go to their concerts, or have you been to Asia?
I have been to Asia, but I just love Oriental music. It really is it's just so gorgeous. So
a lot of cymbals. Do they use a lot of cymbals?
I do. When I paint, I am inspired by that sound.
And is that common in the Chinese? This is Chinese. You said in the Chinese music, a lot of cymbals. Or not necessarily?
I don't know if the cymbals, but I know that the musical instruments, the pipa it's not, I'm not showing that one, but it's probably their national instrument. I think that's it. It's an incredible, it's beautiful. Ooh. But this is, I've forgotten about this. I didn't.
I would definitely frame that one. That's beautiful. I love that.
Oh, Angela, thanks.
Wow. What are we looking at here?
Oh, now this is just more of pieces to a composite of a little book, and it's about a little girl, and she sees herself dancing through puddles, the puddles, and then she's dancing through rainbows, and she's dancing through flowers. You'll see them so this was just a piece of using design and having fun carving in, using the positive and the negative spaces.
I see that with the negative here. That's it really gives me a good indication of the water To me, that's very fluid. I love
yes.
that.
Oh,
I love
thank
that.
you, Angela.
Should we go on?
Sure. That sounds great.
Love the pinks and greens and burgundies.
And there's the little girl. She's eating an ice cream cone with her doll, and she's taking a rest after building half of her sandcastle.
She's an architect in training.
Maybe. Okay.
Of course she is. You know, she's already knows she's going to be an architect.
Now the fun of this, when I did these, I wanted it to be very icy, like sand, so it's much lighter. You know, a lot of my artwork is more strong in color, but these I wanted them, you know, to relate to the sand. You know, that it's softer and the tonality are lighter tones.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway,
Soft
it's
pastels.
just a
That's
fun
fun.
little image.
That's fun. That's almost like a greeting card. Some of the images you see on the greeting cards. Next, you should come out with a line of greeting cards.
Oh my gosh! Oh gosh! Oh, uh-oh.
What are we looking
Now
at?
this was the cover, the back cover of the ballet book. It was
Ribbons?
and ribbons, and when I look at this, it was I do become my art, and I felt the air. You know, I was in between the paper and the paint as those ribbons were flowing, and it was just wonderful to draw that. It was a fun experience.
And here's the architectural detail again that is common in most of your work. I could spot your work now, which I love.
Yes.
I love. You used to make ribbon pillows.
Yes.
Do you still have them?
Yes.
Do you still enjoy doing that? And can you tell us how they were made? I wish I should have asked you to bring one. Tell us how you made those ribbon pillows.
Well, it's very much like the art. I select different thicknesses and different weights, and I just weave them just as a weaver would, you know, get onto a loom and overlay them and do a backing and then do beautiful gimp, you know, a
What
texture.
does gimp mean?
Gimp is like a cord cording around.
Oh, I remember that.
Remember
They had that made the whole pillow, the cording around it. Yes.
It's like on, you know, a theatrical gown, you know, the heavy cordings.
And on upholstery. Maybe one day you'll come on the show and bring some of your other kind of art. What do you call the kind of art that's not flat? What would you call that? 3D?
Three-dimensional.
3D.
Yes.
Bring in some of your 3D art, like the pillows, and I'm sure you have other items. I'd love you to do that.
Oh, Angela, that's very nice.
Oh, that's colorful. I love that.
Now this is more, you know, you saw the singular girl dancing in the puddles. This is now she has her friend, and within the little book, I call it the Yam Club.
Like a potato yam?
Like a potato yam, but it's the You and Me Club.
Oh, that's so cute.
So she and her good friend were running all over, dancing in the puddles but I had, again, it was fun, you know, creating the moon, and just figuring out the design. That's really, these have that kind of a spirit of just.
Can you point to the moon from there? That's fascinating, the way you caught that moon. It looks like a cutout on top, but it's actually a crescent.
Just a crescent.
I wouldn't have noticed it if you hadn't pointed that out. I love it.
Oh, thank you. Well, anyway.
What was the name of this book?
This one was 1 toe 3 4 5, meaning instead of, you know, the ballerina that she's learning her positions, you know. So
I think we should get that published. I mean, look at the drawings and you're actually a writer, as well as an artist and a musician, even though you don't play an instrument or sing. Do you sing?
And textbooks, just, you know, I've written a preparatory book for, you know, drafting.
Oh,
you
wonderful.
know, and basic drafting and that kind of thing.
But you probably enjoy the fiction better.
Yes,
I would imagine.
I do.
Even though you have both skills.
There are people far better than me on that, but mine is taking a concept and I like to paint it, but that's nice that you said.
Oh, you're definitely a very prolific writer, actually. I saw some of the other pieces that you wrote that were not tied to these, but we'll talk about them next time.
And this was the front cover of that book. When you put the ribbons and this together, they match. So this was her toes. See,
Am I holding it
that was
correctly?
the back cover, and this is the front.
Beautiful.
So anyway.
That's beautiful.
Oh, Angela.
And
thanks.
what does this one have to do with?
Now this is just, again, here she is now going through a flower garden, and again, I just had more fun taking the page and, you know, dissecting it and using the positive and negative. You know, I will say, I've forgotten to say this, that art, as any artist will say, it's really a mathematical equation as well. It's adding and subtracting, and the positive and the negative, and, you know, and then everything in between. So these were a lot of fun to do, I have to say. But this was her enjoying the flowers and the fragrance and the feet of her toes.
That's adorable.
And
do you,
so.
now what did you make this with? What did, ink or pastel or what did you?
These were pretty much gouache and also watercolor pencil, which are really phenomenal.
Watercolor pencil. Does
Yes.
it smear?
Well, you add water to it. After you make the line, you can, the beauty of watercolor, you layer it. It's layer after layer after layer. And the pencil, it will dissolve, but it will leave a hard edge, but it will diffuse, you know, with the more water that you bring onto it. So you have a lot of play to bring value and tones. So it creates a different image than, you know, acrylic or just using paint on a brush.
So is that what's going on in the purple, where you say that some of the line is still hard and some of it is smeared? Or not?
Yes,
where would I see some of that?
yes. It's just that I might have just colored it in stronger and not blended it.
And not blended.
And that's it. But the beauty of watercolor, you have to work very fast. It's an incredibly exciting medium. But if you get too dark too fast, oops, you know.
It ruins the
so
whole look.
It's a layering process.
A soft layering.
Exactly. And the more you get used to it, it is very great. You can get your ideas down, you know, in quicker and in a very exciting way after you sort of understand the process of how to use it, and it'll work itself magic, you know, for you. It's a wonderful medium.
Have you ever taught fine art?
The closest that I've taught is figure drawing, you know, and
where did you do that?
At Parsons. They asked me to develop a class called Basic Drawing for Home Furnishings.
Oh.
And it's still in the program. That started in the early 80s, and I taught there for about 19 years on and off. But it was wonderful. It was taking the formula of, I call it the box structure, and being able to see an invisible packing crate around anything, and then be able to draw the object. And I've taught...
Wait a second. Could you repeat that? Seeing a box, whatever you just said, could you repeat it and explain it, because I don't understand.
Well,
and the viewers might not, and it's fascinating.
Okay, an invisible packing crate. It's almost like dowels. Like on this piece, you know, in my mind's eye, I'd square it off and I'd put a dowel up and I'd put like saran wrap around it, and I'd draw that box, and then...
Oh, you'd square it off totally
like
to get the shape.
Scaffolding.
Okay.
That's right.
Oh, okay.
Like a scaffolding around it. And then you can throw your circle, you know, throw your oval, and it gives you the foundation, the formula of structure to be able to draw. You can do that to a face. So anyway, that's what and I've taught that to many, many, many students.
Wow, because before you said something about formula, and I didn't understand. So it has to do with building on shapes. Is that what you mean?
Exactly, exactly. And then taking it and using it to apply to whatever it is. And
like in this case, if you were to make this into a box before you drew the table, you said square it off and then do the oval top?
That's right,
And then you said something about circles. I don't see circles here except for the ends, but this is part of the oval. So where are the circles if you were to draw this?
Okay, well, actually, that's a lot to answer.
Too hard.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, now.
I get too detailed sometimes.
No, that's wonderful. That's great. A great question. Okay, number one, a box is not just a square. It is. If I was drawing this, it's a rectangle. If we were doing these chairs, it would be a little box. It would be more like a cube.
Wow.
You apply it to what you're doing, and then I'd have to show you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How you can throw the circle. But if you take on a flat plane on 90 degrees and draw a square, and then draw a circle within it,
Okay.
and then you start laying that down, that circle will eventually turn into an oval. It turns into a disc.
Fascinating.
I mean, that's the excitement of understanding perspective. So it's a very quick way to gain perspective and be able to draw 3D on a two-dimensional plane.
Now, did you enjoy art from a very young age?
I did.
You
did.
told me a story about when you were 2 or 3. There was something interesting, but was it about music
Yes.
or art?
Well, my mother was very creative, and she, when I was 2 or 3, everybody was out playing, and I was in sewing bean bags, for this event that Mother was having or whatever. And then I got into art, and finally, in college is really when it came through.
Full-fledged. You blossomed, I'm sure.
Well, that's when it started, and I'm still working at it.
Wow.
It's always, but the exciting thing of art is really it's telling a story. It's a very singular medium. It's like playing tennis. You're out on the court, you're on your own. You better, understand how to get that serve back, and art has that philosophy to it as well. But the best is knowing God, and I do this hopefully with a more clean spirit, and I have a reason why I'm doing it. It's not as much for fun as it is for making a statement, making saying something, so.
From the God, the Creator.
Yes.
That's fascinating. We spoke last time when we did our interview together. We spoke about how God inspires you, and that sometimes you feel He's leading you each step of the way. Did you want to share that? We have about 3 minutes left. Did you want to share a little bit about how God influences a lot of the art that you do?
Certainly. Well, I lean on Him for everything. I mean, once I start sketching, I'm digging in for the themes and the inspiration, and as I'm impressed to maybe go in this direction, then I'm asking Him His direction for every step of the way. And once that formula has been established, then He helps me through the process, and hopefully a good message is brought forth, and that's really how the process, in a nutshell, happens.
And from a spiritual perspective, do you feel the Holy Spirit is guiding you sometimes? I think you mentioned that last time.
Oh yes, I do. I cannot separate, the Holy Spirit and the Lord in my art. I mean, when I'm doing it, He's with me. He's with me on it.
How would you, this is kind of an odd question to ask, but let's say there's an artist watching this and they're inspired by what you're speaking about, having God be with you as you're creating and guiding you. Maybe they don't have a personal relationship with God, and they view Him as God within everything. He's in the furniture, He's in my shoes, He's in everything, that perspective that some people have. I just see Him much more personal than that. How would you suggest that they get to know Him on a more personal way so that He would be inside and guiding them? And you have about another minute or so, I think.
Okay. In a very concise way, I know the difference between painting without God and painting with God. And it's really, in the world for me, a black and white, whether the piece was in full color and then in full color. The Lord, first with my art, leaving my art aside, and the development of my relationship with God was first and foremost. And then bringing my art into the picture was another aspect and a facet of it. But it's enriched it, and it's put my art also in perspective, that my art is my art, but my relationship with God is first and foremost.
Beautiful. Thank you. That really sums it up. And meeting with you again here and describing and all the art that you've done and how you got there has been a really good experience. To the viewers, thank you for watching. I'm sure you've enjoyed. Our contact information is below, as well as Ellen Schimmel Berns' information, and we look forward to seeing you again. And please don't text and drive. Thank you. Be safe. God bless. Hello again, and thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you have any thoughts or concerns or ideas for a show or questions, please contact us. Our information is below. And remember, we want to know what's on your heart.